Hello everyone, this is the Vespa Idiot, and this is the great showcase showdown between Vespa 2014 GTV and a brand new Vespa Sei Giorni from end of 2019, second edition, model number 1974. Okay, so there has been some development in the last couple of years and we'll start on the front. The GTV 2014 has chrome wheels, while the Sei Giorni has black wheels but with a very attractive red dot here. The other difference already from the front is the Vespa tie here. Right here, it's a different shape than on the GTV. Also here there is still a real light bulb in here, while this is already LED lights here on the Sei Giorni. And the light has remained the same. If you come a bit closer, the light has remained the same, halogen lights. This is an extra part here that I put on, the little blinker here on the headlight, also halogen lights. This is extra what I installed, but you can already see some of the differences from the front. So the chrome wheels versus black, and LED versus real light bulbs still. The shape of the blinkers has remained the same. And one other small difference, this is already COVID adjusted, this scooter. Since it's brand new, it already has a safe mask here. And they're of course standing more than 1.5 meters apart, these two scooters, to be COVID safe. Then we move on to the middle section here between the two. One other thing to the front. There is a slightly different shape. There's an extra kink in here in the front suspension. And what that does is the Vespas have too narrow a wheelbase. And what happens if you want to drive without hands, for example, or with just one hand, the old Vespas start wobbling like this very strongly from about 40 to 60 kilometers an hour. That wobble, because of the extra kink and extra weight on the front wheel with the suspension, is gone. So that's a real improvement over the GTV with the Sei Giorni here. If we look here at our voltmeter, that's also an extra that I put on. But I must say, what they really have fixed is the equalizer with the power. It is far more stable than in any other preceding model. With the 2014, it's still wonking a little bit back and forth while driving, but that's also fixed with the Sei Giorni, that the equalizer for the power is a whole notch better than on the GTVs. Pretty much everything the same in shape of the chassis, but a big difference is here with the CTV, so the constant velocity transmission that is in here. This has a three-wall sound. There's three little walls here that dampen the sound of the otherwise rather noisy transmission. So that's a definite improvement. Also, the weights that are in the front, the rollers in the transmission, they don't click like they do with any previous model before the Sei Giorni. So, and they also last longer, the weights, that I have noticed over the last 25,000 kilometers. They last about double as long as with the other one. There's one big minus, and if you come to the other side, the This is the old model, and a lot of sound comes out of here because it's not sound dampened. But this is where you fill the oil in the old model, in the before 2018, so before the HPE engines or motors. You fill in the oil here, which is reasonably convenient. That got changed in this model, and it is very hard to see. You gotta get in here to fill in, to check and fill in the oil. When the exhaust is hot, you burn your hands if you try to check the oil, and yet you're supposed to check the oil when the engine is warm and in use. You also have to make yourself an extra funnel that has just the right kink. You have to melt a big funnel and then bend it so that you can actually fill in oil. And that's a very, very disappointing change, that checking and refilling your oil, which you should do regularly, has become so difficult to do. So that's a real minus in these things. I also need to mention that you see here the oil overflow bubbles. Once in a while one has to take them off, and there's oil that comes from the motor that sprays into the air filter. That's why one has to clean it once in a while, and if it's too much, it runs into these little bubbles and one lets it out. With the old modern Vespas, the trouble is that this often fills out quite quickly, and the air filter becomes black fairly quickly because it sucks up some of the oil, and so one has to maintain that fairly well. And there's a real improvement to the new one. On the Sei Giorni here, this is my oil bubble. They don't even have one in the front. It does no longer need it. This is the one and only overflow bubble, and this is after 25,000 kilometers, never cleaned, not a drop has ended up here. And with the older Vespas, when you go on long tours, you often even have some oil running down here from the air filter if too much has collected in here, and it doesn't look very nice, and everybody thinks you have a leak or something like this, but you don't. But so that's pretty impressive. After 25,000 kilometers, not a drop of oil in here. So that's a real improvement on the Sei Giorni. What is also better is the whole driving feel of it. The engine feels a lot more mature. I don't think it is more mature, but it feels more mature. So there's very little valve sound. In the older models you hear a lot of clicking from the valves. That's completely gone with the HPE motors, the new ones. Also, this has 24 horsepower, and this came with 21 horsepower. Unmodified, it's 21 horsepower, unmodified 24. And the driving feel, so the suspension itself is also a lot more mature. If you drive with two people on the GTV, you really feel it that there's two people on it. I mean, it bounces up and down even when it's brand new, and the engine is laboring more, and the transmission is making more squeaky sounds when you have two people on it. That too is, with the new suspension here, is gone. You don't feel a second rider on the Sei Giorni model, and that's a real improvement too. What is horrible about the Sei Giorni is that the belt that's in the CVT is the same or thinner than in this, and it does not hold the 24 horsepower. So I had by now 2 times a belt snap on me on the highway, and it always happens under big load. That can become very dangerous, and so that's a real issue that still needs to be fixed on these models. Either a Malossi belt or design a different belt for the CVT, but it can't stay as it is. That's a real minus on this model. So the big question then is, which model is better, the GTV or the Sei Giorni? It is hard to say. I drove this one for 50,000, the cream colored one. This one so far for about 25,000. And so far this has had a few issues with the shock absorbers and with the speedometer, and that's a bit disappointing, but that might not necessarily mean that there's a quality difference in the models. This might just be a particularly poor Monday model, as they say. So electronically and from a maturity point of view, the Sei Giorni, in my opinion, is a lot better, and it's quieter. The engine is even smoother than on the GTVs. But from a sort of fun driving perspective, I would see them as pretty much equal. And time will tell whether these brand new HPE motors will hold with such high quality as these do. So far my impression is that yes, the engine is actually improved over those ones. Certainly the transmission, if you take away the belt snapping, the transmission is smoother, works in more leveled conditions. So if you only drive 50, it doesn't turn down your revs all the way down to the bottom. It stays at higher revolutions, and it feels better driving the new one. So if they can fix the belt issue in the CVT, then I must say the Sei Giorni is probably better. Looks wise, because of the chrome wheels that this one has, and the color itself, I prefer the GTV. I don't like the Sei Giorni colors that much. The washed out green that the previous Sei Giorni was, and also this very dark gray. Those are the only two colors you can have so far. Don't speak to me. This one has a much more aggressive look, the Sei Giorni, than the GTV. And so from a looks perspective, I would prefer the old ones. From a driving perspective, I would prefer the Sei Giorni. So I hope that helps you a little bit if you're deciding to buy a used scooter, whether you should go after the newer models or the older models. I will keep you posted, by the way, on what Vespa is doing about the belt. I have written to them, I have called them. I want all my maintenance money back, which has been so far 2,000 euros. Because if you pay that much money for maintenance and then the belt keeps snapping, that's not right. And so I want my money back from Vespa for that. I will keep you also posted on how it goes with the warranty claims. So thank you very much, and I hope this is helpful to you.